Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerd Ledger. I am Cage. That is Chair.
Chair, what's up?
Yeah, we are back after a short hiatus. Not a real hiatus, just like, we just didn't podcast because life and things, right?
Yeah, I had my sister over with the baby nephew, so I've been real busy
Nice.
since like last Tuesday. They came over, so I've just been busy the whole week essentially. Uh,
Yeah. Well,
work to hang out with them, and ooh, you just cut out really bad. You there?
I'm here. I wasn't, yeah.
Oh, well, there's a kind of a big delay. It's fine though. Doesn't matter. 'Cause we're not recording. So,
Yeah.
um,
I don't know if
anyway,
there's actually a delay. I think we're fine.
yeah, it's fine now. But there was like a lag spike. So I've just been hanging out with the nephew. He's a really cute kid. Baby nephew, brand new, newborn. Just cute little baby. Then just been working. Got a house for sale. Think I got something coming on this Friday. Hopefully, we'll see. Fingers crossed. And
Nice.
then still just volunteering and just playing video games. That's really about it.
Yep. Yep. I've been just working and occasionally visiting the tattoo parlor, and that's about it.
Hmm.
So yeah, been busy, been tired. It's great. Love being tired, but yeah, we're here. We're here to talk about things, nerd things, because why would we not talk about nerd things, right? Um, well, there's some news that came out today.
Hmm.
Nothing crazy, but um, Superman, right, came out in
Yeah, the
July.
new one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's already an announcement for a sequel, kind of. It's not necessarily a Superman movie. James Gunn kind of hinted that it will have Superman in it, of course, but it's not like a direct sequel.
Hmm.
But 2027, July 9th, 2027, will be Man of Tomorrow, which is, it's pretty much just a sequel, but it's not really a sequel. Who knows? But yeah, so we already got an announcement for a sequel, which is pretty cool, I suppose, because Superman was
Yep.
good.
Yep.
Um, Also, you're probably not watching it, but Peacemaker has started up again.
No,
Uh,
no, I'm not watching it currently.
yeah, so there's 2 episodes out. The third episode comes out tomorrow. I mean, I like it, but I know you're not a huge fan. So
It definitely was didn't. So, but I'll probably watch it so we have something to talk about on the show.
yeah, yeah. And then I just was thinking, as I was working on the docs last week. I was like thinking about the Hobbit movies for some reason, and
Mm.
some of the things that bothered me about them. And then I was like, we should do like a top 5 list of the worst things about the Hobbit movies. It's very, very pertinent, right? Everybody's talking about the Hobbit these days. Surely, 11 years after the last one
Yeah,
came out.
the
I mean,
movies most people would rather have not have happened at all. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it is September, and September is the month of the Hobbits, of course, right? September 22nd is the birthday of Bilbo and Frodo. So, hey, it's totally on schedule here to talk about the Hobbit, surely. So, yeah. All right. There are a lot of terrible things about the Hobbit movies, right? So,
Yeah.
I don't have any honorable mentions. I just put together a top 5 list, kind of in no particular order, but I'm ready if you're ready.
Yeah, I had like a couple of top seven, but I sort of condensed it down, sort of.
All
I
right.
think is a good way to describe it.
Okay.
And then it was really I know what I hate about it, so
Yeah.
I was able to find that. I was able to do that no problem.
Yeah. All right.
Um, so what was where did you how did you want to start? Negative or positive?
So we'll do the 5 worst things, and then we'll do the 5 best things. In the nature of Tolkien, we'll end on a happy note, right? So,
All right.
um,
Do you
all
want to go
right,
first for what you dislike the most?
sure. Okay, number 5 on my list,
Oh,
Legolas.
number five. Number five. Okay.
Yeah. Legolas is number 5 on my list. He had no business being in these movies. He was in 2 of 3 of the movies, and he served no purpose at all.
Yeah.
Um, Number 4 on my list, Dol Guldur, right? The whole sequence with Dol Guldur, and I get it. Like, it's helpful to know where Gandalf was going, and we have Galadriel and Elrond and all this stuff, and it's like whatever. It doesn't belong in these movies, in my opinion. Didn't need
Mm.
it. Didn't ask for it. I don't care about it. Number 3, the Battle of the Five Armies. Not just the battle, the entire fucking movie. Um,
Yeah.
which brings me to number 2, it being
Hmm.
3 movies. That's awful.
Yeah.
This should have been
Yeah.
one movie.
I haven't. I have. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll compare notes here.
Yeah. And then number 1 on my list, the worst thing about the Hobbit movies, Tariel. Everything about Tariel, she was a new character, cool, interesting little character, whatever. Didn't need her. The whole love story with Keeley, didn't need it. Don't care about the whole shit with Thranduil talking to her at the end and all like that. Awful. Hated that character. Hated the romance with Keeley. Ruins everything about those movies. Okay, what's your worst things?
So number five, I have bad villain, the evil orc guy, the pale orc guy. I didn't think was like very compelling or anything like that. I thought how they killed him off was cool, but other than that, like I just felt like he's just another generic orc. I didn't really consider him or care about him more than other orcs, and he just wasn't very, like, oh wow, he's standing on top of battlement, like, signaling flags because he's a tactician or whatever. Like I thought that was really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have put here. I just realized these two are probably gonna combine. No, I guess not. It's like, so the made up scenes weren't very good. There's one scene I think you and I disagree on that I think was really badass. But we'll talk about that when we talk about the good things. But like the scene where they're going down in barrels, I didn't like that at all. Like that whole
Mm-hmm.
barrel sequence was very strange. And like the whole sequence, the Battle of Five Armies, it was cool. But like the more I watch it, the more I realize how stupid it all is. Like, it really went over the top, and how, especially with the orc army and how ridiculous they were. They should have just been a horde of marauding orcs. And like, I thought it was cool at first with the dwarves using those like chain things to break up the elven arrows. I thought that was pretty badass. But other than that, like, I just didn't. It started out really strong, and then it got a lot weaker as it progressed. I think is a good way to describe the whole Battle of Five RP sequence. CGI is really bad at some parts and stuff like that. There's a lot of bad use of stuff like that. So that was my number 3. My number 2 is that it should have been. So this is what I like second most. It should have been 2 movies. I don't think it could have been 1 movie, but I think it should have only been 2 movies. I feel like a lot of the weird, like, expanded on parts would have gotten condensed down in the second movie and would have been a lot better. 3 movies really just like dragged on a lot of the sequences that nobody cared about, like the Battle of the Five Armies and everything like that. And then the one main thing I dislike the most is the romance arc between the elf and the dwarf. I think
Yeah.
it's funny that we both got that as number 1. I completely disliked it. I felt it was very out of place. It was really stupid. I didn't like it at all. Romance was, Tolkien was a guy who like wrote a one of the most best-selling fantasy authors of all time, and unlike most of the best-selling fantasy authors of all time, he didn't need to use like sex at all to sell his books. There doesn't need to be any sex scenes or any romance scenes or anything like that. Describing how attractive a character is. Romance is a part of it, but also like I don't know. I just didn't like this sequence at all. It was really bad.
Yeah. It just it's to me it's such a violation of like I feel like they were trying to do the whole Gimli Galadriel thing. But Gimli wasn't actively pursuing Galadriel ever in a romantic way. Like he just like revered her and her beauty, and that was it. Like
Hmm.
I mean, like that, they shouldn't. I don't know. But I think like the biggest takeaway is when we even if we combine our lists, you could get rid of most of those issues by just making it one or two movies, because like the barrel sequence, it didn't need to be this whole battle sequence. It could have just been the barrels, right? Like they get in the barrels, they float down the river to Esgaroth, and that's it. You don't need this
Yeah.
whole like extended sequence of like a 5-10 minute battle, which is just there again to accommodate this made up character of Tario. Like we didn't need it. And again, Legolas, we don't need him. Like that's the only reason this scene exists with the barrels, is to so that we could show off some cool fighting sequences with Tario and Legolas. Not necessary at all. It just, yeah, and it's one of the things that really hurts that film. Like the second Hobbit movie could have been better, but like by it just being kind of integrated into the first movie, a lot of it, like we didn't need all of this, right? So yeah, one or two movies we could have trimmed so much of that fat around the final battle. We didn't really need the pale orc and all this backstory about him and Thorin. Like the central focus of the film isn't really Thorin's reclaiming of Erebor and his rivalry with the pale orc, right? With Azog. Like that stuff is all existing within the appendices of the Lord of the Rings because it wasn't important enough for Tolkien to explain it in the Hobbit book, right? So
Yeah.
to me, it's all kind of excessive stuff that just weighs down and bogs down the narrative. And the same with the Dol Guldur stuff. Like again, this is not the story of Sauron and how he's reemerging into the world and with the finding of his ring and things like that. Like that's not what the center of this story is, and that's not what it should be. So it's kind of all just there, right?
Yeah.
So they could have trimmed so much of that fat and really streamlined the narrative and made just really a good film or two good films. And the thing that really hurts the Hobbit movies more than all of the bad decisions they made is just like it's always going to pale in comparison to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because even though those films had some flaws, like they're widely regarded as like a masterpiece and one of the greatest film trilogies to ever exist.
Yeah, absolutely. Which kind of segues into, the good list, what I have.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're gonna have like longer discussions. We'll compare lists again, but one of the things on my good list is that it's just more Peter Jackson vision of Lord of the Rings, which is not technically a bad thing based off the first three movies. There's a lot of good sequences, um, when they get to the Erebor, right, the
Mm-hmm.
kingdom under the mountain or whatever like that. When they get there and they see the gold, and it's like a cold dwarven fortress all like revealed. And I thought the dragon chase through Erebor was actually very compelling. Like I thought it was really cool because again, it was just more like cool dwarven stuff like done at scale. So I'm not like opposed to these movies existing, but like, you're right. They did so much bad, like in the negative list, we have similar issues again, where I just don't think it should have been three movies. Like the Battle of Five Armies was like what, 3 paragraphs in the Hobbit book or something like that. Like it was just,
Yeah,
and
it
five
was.
great armies came together and clashed on a field, like, and just, I remember like he was talking about grim-faced warriors with broad axes and shields, like for the dwarves, and then the orcs. Like I remember the ground crushers being a thing that they came out of like holes in the ground. Like
It
so I remember.
was. It was essentially Bilbo telling Thorin he gave the Arkenstone to the elves, and
Hmm.
then him getting kicked out of Erebor, and then all these armies are gathered. There's some reference to Dane.
Hmm.
The eagles are coming. He gets bonked on the head, and that's it. Like that's
Yeah.
it. That's the whole thing, right? Because again, that battle is not essential to the story that's being told, right? Like
Yeah.
that is something that's occurring during the story, but it's not the focus of the story.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, you can you started your list, right? So you can just
So I'll start from number 5. This is for what I like. The scenes that were like 1-to-1 remakes were really good. Like from the book, like there's just more Peter Jackson stuff, so I thought that was really good. I thought all of the this is number 4. All the dwarves looked great and they were all well acted. I thought the dwarven band was really good, except for that one dwarf that was like hilariously obese. Like I know it's supposed to be kind of a joke,
Bomber.
but Bomber, yeah. But aside from that, all the dwarves looked really great. They looked like dwarves. They were well acted like dwarves. Like it was just it. That first movie was really special. I think honestly, kind of like
I accidentally
it's.
hit the space bar. It's okay.
Oh no, did you pause? Did you pause it?
Yeah, just
Okay.
keep going. I'll find some software to merge the videos together. You're good.
Okay. Um, the good thing is too, even though they brought in Legolas, I'm glad they brought in Ian McKellen back for Gandalf, and they brought in Hugo Weaving for Elrond. And the characters, and everything was well casted. I thought Martin Freeman was a fantastic Bilbo. I thought that was great. And my number 2 was that it was more Peter Jackson again vision of the Lord of the Rings universe. He really nails the aesthetic and the scale of everything by getting these long sweeping shots of nature and doing all that stuff, and by not using. This movie obviously had a lot of CGI towards the end, you could tell. But in the first movie, it really feels like it was just a classic trail where they're traveling through nature and stuff like that, and they're recording them traveling through nature. So, they were all hiking. And then my number 1 thing is I'm just gonna keep this one simple. It's like a cool fantasy movie, I guess. I'm glad there are more fantasy movies out there. Like it's nice that they're like, as a fantasy action movie I can watch is at least kind of enjoyable, set in the universe that I like.
Yep.
So that was my 5.
Yeah, so I have a couple honorable mentions that won't make the top 5 list, but are worth noting. Number 1, the practical effects and like the makeup and stuff, right? The way they portray the dwarves and everything, like you were saying, and then also the songs, right? Like that's another great part. I mean, it's more so about the first film. Because the other ones don't have it as much, but right when they sing about the Lonely Mountain, when they even have the Blunt the Knives song and all that, right? Like they capture some of the Tolkien-ish singing stuff. So those are the honorable mentions. Number 5 on my list, I like that Frodo's in the beginning of the first movie because it's in the nature of Tolkien and the way the stories are written, that these are stories that have been told through generations from one person to another, and even The Hobbit and of course Lord of the Rings is written as if you have people who have lived experiences and they contribute to parts of the writing of those stories. And so with Frodo at the beginning of the film, it's essentially Bilbo telling Frodo the story, right? And it's his recollection of the story that we see throughout the movies. So I like the inclusion of Frodo there. Number 4, I put the White Council. It was interesting to kind of see Gandalf and Galadriel and Saruman all come together and talk about the fate of Middle Earth and things like that. To me, it's still kind of considered part of the fat that could have been trimmed, but it was cool to see. Number 3, the cast. I thought, like you were saying, like the cast is really good. I mean, getting Ian McKellen back, Ian Holm, who played Bilbo in The Lord of the Rings, is even in there, of course, with Frodo. And yes, Martin Freeman was a very good Bilbo. All the dwarves were really good. Hugo Weaving as well. Like just a spectacular cast all around. Number 2, I put Smaug. I quite liked the depiction of Smaug, and they could have done some really stupid things with the character, or there's been adaptations of other like dragons where like in the book they talk, but they don't want them talking in the movie because it'll ruin it or something. Like, oh, it'll be too cheesy. Like I think they did Smaug really well, and again with the cast, Benedict Cumberbatch voiced Smaug, which was really good. And then number 1 on my list of best things is Riddles in the Dark. I thought they adapted that scene perfectly. It was great to see. Obviously, Andy Serkis coming back as Gollum, and I thought it was probably the best part of all those movies.
Yeah, Smog was a good runner, or definitely an honorable mention for me. That whole dragon chase sequence through the thing was really good. I think he's probably one of the most well animated dragons. Benedict Cumberbatch did an amazing job voicing him. Again, that's one of those faithful scenes that happened was when Smaug and Bilbo were together, and these guys already have a bunch of chemistry, so they were able to act like just accordingly, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's one of those things, like, before you go see these adaptations, like, that's one of the scenes you really look forward to is, like, Bilbo and Smaug meeting for the first time and things
mhm.
like that. Like, it's because in the book, it's captivating to read it, and so you want it to be the same on screen. Um, and I think they did a good job with Smaug.
Yeah,
Like, I think that's what's so frustrating about the films is, like, there are a lot of really good things, a lot of very very apt adaptations, and, like, the core of the story is there, but it's just buried underneath all that extra shit on the sides, right? Like, you didn't need 9 to 10 hours of film to tell the story of the Hobbit. You could have really easily done it in 3 to 4. So, right, like two hour movies or one really long 3.5 hour movie or something. Like, you could have done all of the Hobbit pretty easily. But I get it. Like, Peter Jackson wanted to add in all this stuff from the appendices and kind of flourish a little bit, and of course add the original character of Tariel, and you know Legolas coming back is just purely fan service. To me, it served no purpose, but there's other than to make fans go, oh my god. Like, I was telling my wife about my list, and when I said Legolas was on my list of worst things, she was like, oh, but it's Orlando Bloom. And I'm like, yeah, I know,
yeah.
but
Some
he
people
didn't.
like watching those things. Like, that's why they watch movies.
Yeah, Orlando Bloom did say, I think it was at a convention recently. It might have just been in an interview. Like, he pretty much said he would hate to see the character recast, and he would love to come back as Legolas if there's an opportunity, which there might be with Hunt for Gollum, right? Like Gollum at one point is captured by the elves of Mirkwood, and he in the book ends up being the one to tell the Council of Elrond that Gollum had escaped from Mirkwood. That's the reason he was there, is to convey that message. And so, yeah, there's an opportunity for him to come back in a place that makes sense. Like, I get it, they're in Mirkwood in The Hobbit, but he's not part of the books and was never meant to be part of it. Like, they just wanted to throw him in the movie to do cool, badass Legolas things, which is cool. Like, in the Lord of the Rings movies, Legolas is known for doing cool, badass tricks and shit. Like, that's essentially his character. Other than that, it's not a very interesting character, but he's there.
Yeah, he is there. You can see that for a lot of characters, unfortunately, in the Hobbit series, that they're just kind of there.
Yeah,
Um, so many sequences were built were like, again, especially that second movie, I think is when the whole, like, okay, we're stretching this out for the third movie. That whole travel through Lake Town and everything like that was just extended to a point where it did not need to be like dragged out like that at all.
yeah,
Yeah.
not at all. Like,
No.
it could have been 5 minutes, 10 minutes in Lake Town.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, there's so many, like, like, something newish, kind of interesting that they did in the second film was when, like, Thorin was talking to Thranduil, right, and he, like, shows him his, like, scarred face or whatever. Like, that's interesting. That's something that, like, is kind of cool to see. But even then, like, there's so many extra just random scenes throughout all of these films that you don't need all of that. You could easily cut so many things and just, like, have a streamlined narrative that is entertaining and makes sense and is enjoyable, but, like, it's just drags on. There's so much.
Yeah.
It's so disappointing. Like, The Hobbit as a book is shorter than every edition of Lord of the Rings. Like, The Hobbit is shorter than Fellowship, it's shorter than Two Towers, it's shorter than Return of the King, right? And each of those
Yeah.
books got its own film. The Hobbit didn't need 3 films. And, like, you wonder if it's like a creative thing where, like, Peter Jackson was the one heading that fight and saying, I want to make it 3 films, or if it's like a studio thing where they're like, oh, we could really stretch this box office and make 3 movies, and
I think that was the thing. They're like, all right, we made 3 Lord of the Rings movies. Now we're gonna make 3 Hobbit movies, right? And Peter Jackson was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then We get the weird extension of Lake Town where it's like this weird, really weird sequence of events of this master with his like weird assistant, like and even though it should have just been the bunch of people like in the books, it was just them living under Bard, right? That was it. Like they all like live. They just like, oh yeah, Bard's like he's the son of our ancient lord, and one day like he can do the like very Tolkien-esque sort of thing, or like he's and I don't
Yeah,
think that he
they did
like
talk about the leader of Lake Town, but it was like he was mentioned. It wasn't. We didn't need all of that extra stuff about Lake Town. Like
yeah,
we get it, and we did like we
absolutely.
and even the assistant guy. I forgot his name, but like they even going into the next movie after Smaug destroys Lake Town, pretty much. Like he's still like a central part of the narrative for some reason. Like we don't care. We don't need
Yeah.
any of that. Like honestly, Battle of the Five Armies, that film could have been condensed to like 45 minutes of footage easily.
Exactly.
So,
Easily.
and same
There.
for the Desolation of Smaug. Like that movie could have been an hour easily, but it's 3 hours still.
Yeah.
It's like out of the three, I think we both agree. Like the first one is fine as a film on its own. Like
Absolutely.
there's some fat there that can also been trimmed a bit, but like it works. Like it's a good film. Like in probably in your opinion, we don't need Azog as your main antagonist. Pushing us forward. Like there's already a mission and a goal. We don't need to have that
And you had a
antagonizing force
villain.
pushing you forward, right? Like
The villain in The Hobbit is Smaug. He's like the villain. He's the evil bad dragon that you're going to slay and or defeat so you get the gold. It's simple like that. Like you don't need another like orc villain that commands the orc armies so you can have
yeah.
a cool orc epic battle with orc siegecraft. And these orcs with like bricks on their heads running into walls and like this guy who has like his eyes and legs gutted out and he's being like freaking dragged around with like chains and it's
Ooh.
just
Yeah.
there was a lot of really weird orc like siege things I don't really like. I don't know.
Well,
Like
and so much of the conflict like shouldn't come from these outside forces. The conflict comes from within the company, right? Like accepting
yeah,
Bilbo, and some of the disagreements there. But even throughout the story, you have different villains, quote unquote. You have the Goblin King, right, under the mountain, in the Misty Mountains. You have Gollum, who obviously is there. You have wargs in the wild that are pursuing still. Like there are wild wargs. We know there are goblins in the mountains. Like these are just entities that exist that we are aware of. We don't need Azog necessarily. Like there's always conflict that exists. You don't need Azog necessarily, like because he's not like he's mentioned at some point, once maybe in the Hobbit the book, but like almost never besides that, right? Like everything is just there. Like the goblins pursue the dwarves out of the Misty Mountains and light the trees on fire, and there are wargs. Like you don't need this whole battle sequence and all this stuff. It's unnecessary. It's just there because Azog exists in the appendices, but he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't the one pursuing them through
yeah,
all
everything.
of the Hobbit. Like, and then
Exactly.
it just adds again to the Lake Town sequence later. Like, he's just there. Like, we just have orcs like pursuing through Mirkwood and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
that reminds me too. Another thing that it didn't make it there either of our lists, but I've seen it as a massive complaint about The Hobbit, where, and this is something Peter Jackson does a lot in his adaptations. He takes a lot of Tolkien's metaphors literally, right? And the most pertinent example is the Eye of Sauron. Like he made it a physical giant eye on top of a tower in the adaptation,
Mm.
whereas like I don't know if anybody reading The Lord of the Rings ever imagined it being this eye on top of a tower. It's like he has spies everywhere. He's a physical being in The Lord of the Rings still. And like he sees things through the Palantir and through his spies and all this stuff. Like it's not just this big physical eye on top of a building, but he made it a literal thing in the Lord of the Rings adaptation, and he did the same thing here with the Thunder Giants, right? When they're scaling through the mountains. Like there's literally like giant rock monsters assaulting each other, right?
Hmm.
Whereas like in The Hobbit, it's really like it's just a
They
storm.
they just watch and they watch. No, I remember they watched. Like there was a scene like the dwarves stopped and watched these giant monsters like throw rocks at each other. Like and they're
Yeah.
like, "Well, that's cool," and then they just went on their merry way. You
Yeah.
know, like that would have been a great sequence too in the regular in the movie. Just like yeah, they stopped and they watched these giant stone giants like throw rocks at each other because they were bored, and then they went on their way. You know.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just that's where the annoyance just comes from is like I can rewatch the Hobbit movies, but like it's kind of like The Last Jedi where like if you just skip the casino planet scenes like on Canto Bight, it makes the film better already, right? And you
Yeah.
if you just like kind of like cut out some of those like I don't know if you heard of this, but like Topher Grace who played Eric on that 70s show, he at
Hmm.
some point grabbed like the prequels, all three films, and like cut them himself into like one movie,
Hmm.
and like it was like this big thing he talked about in an interview. I don't know all the story, but like if someone did that with the Hobbit movies and just like made it one streamlined film, it could be great. It could be great. I bet I could find that it probably exists. It might not be the way I would do it, but it probably exists
Yeah.
where it's just one film where you cut out so much of the Lake Town stuff, the Tauriel completely, like, because when I think of the Battle of the Five Armies, like the whole movie is just excess, like the entire thing, like Smaug being killed is important, great. The battle, like the armies preparing for battle, important, okay, great. The
Hmm.
battle itself, not, I mean, cool fight sequences, I guess, but not super important. And then I don't know if you've seen the extended edition, but they add like a whole bunch of CGI fuckfest scenes to that battle as well.
Yeah, like
Uh,
when freaking Legolas is running up those like steps, like because he's like a
yeah,
lot of that shit. A lot of that shit was unnecessary. Like I said, that whole sequence was like cool at the first when the dwarves and the elves were like doing their thing. Like okay, like sure, cool. The orcs came and then they all got into one big battle. That was cool, but then like again, that that dude who was leading the dwarves was all CGI. He was not like in a costume like the other dwarves were, and like his pig was all CGI, and it was just so much. It was really annoying.
yeah. And then like I get it. I this is one I get. Like you can't just have Thorin and Keely die off screen.
Yeah.
Like you can't just have Bilbo get knocked out and then wake up and be like, "Oh, they're dead." Like,
Yeah.
okay, so you show the final like I mean, and that's why Azog is there, I guess, is so that you could have that final battle. But even then, there's another way to do that that's probably more interesting.
Mm.
Um, because we don't need Tario there, and we don't like people love that. I don't know why people really like that scene where like Tario's like, "Why did it hurt so much?" And Thranduil says, "Because it was real." Fuck off, like brother. You guys are immortal elves. You live for thousands of years, and you're crying over a dwarf you met 12 hours ago. Like 12
Mm.
hours is like 2 seconds to an elf. Like it's so irrelevant. Ugh, I hated that character. Like the sad part is, I like Evangeline Lilly, and I thought like her character looked cool. It's just a pointless character, and it just the whole love sequence and love story with Keely makes no sense.
Hmm.
Like, it goes to what you were saying too about Tolkien not needing to leverage those kind of things to tell his stories, and like the whole thing with Gimli and Galadriel is completely different. Like Gimli just really finds her to be like the most beautiful person to ever exist, and that's it. Like he doesn't want to date her. He doesn't want to be with her. Like he's embarrassed to ask her for one strand of her hair. She gives him three. He takes that and like puts it into like jewels and gold as like heirlooms of his house because he just finds her so beautiful. he says like, I'll never call anything beautiful unless it's her gift to me. Like, that's it. She just admires her beauty and reveres it to a high degree. But Keely is just like, oh my god, guys, oh my god, like, I'm gonna be with Tario, guys. Like, Jesus Christ, it's nowhere near the same thing. But they play it off as like it's this similar thing. Again, exists nowhere in the books either. Just weird, just odd. Didn't like it.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah, well, pretty much said it all. Like, that whole sequence is really dumb. It should have been included at all. It's just like a lot of the stuff in Lake Town. That's where that stuff really started to blossom, is in Lake Town, and that's when a bunch of just really bad decisions were made.
Yeah, and like, I just don't understand it at all. Like, why it even exists. It doesn't serve any purpose other than when Keely dies, it's like it's supposed to be this emotional hit to the character that I just don't buy anyway. Like, and again, Thranduil saying, "Oh, it was real." It's not real. Like, it's clearly not real. They just met, like, and spent like 10 seconds together.
Yeah.
And again, like, to your point about the barrels, another thing like that just could have been completely streamlined without Tario. Like, Frodo helps him escape through the barrels. Like, that's all you need. No, sorry, not Frodo, Bilbo. That's all you need. You don't need all this extra weird shit happening and, like, Tauriel and Keely in the cells and all this stuff. Like, you just need Bilbo to help them escape and get into the barrels and go out, right? Like, that's it. That's all you need. And then we just need the barrels to float down the waters to Lake Town. That's it. Instead, we get this massive fight sequence. Sure, we get dwarves fighting and elves fighting, and it's cool. Look, guys, look at cool stuff is happening. But, like, there's no problem with you seeing them get into the barrels, roll out in the river, scene cuts again where they are now in Lake Town, swimming, all cold, right? Bilbo gets sick. Okay. Like, you can make things happen that are interesting without having just like crazy CGI fight scenes that don't add anything, by the way. He did the same thing in Two Towers with the warg sequence where Aragorn goes over the cliff. He just added because it's cool, served no purpose really other than getting Aragorn for some reason out and making people think he's dead when he's clearly not dead. And the best thing that came from that is watching him, open the doors in Helm's Deep and looking all sexy and shit.
Yep.
But, yeah. Anyway, that's all I have to say. I think we came up with some good lists. I think most people would probably agree. There's probably stuff we missed, honestly, because I haven't watched the movies again in probably 5 years.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing too. It was like, man, I should watch these, but also the podcast in a few days. I don't have the time to watch all these movies.
Yeah, unless we skip all the parts we don't like, and then we wouldn't have a list. So
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, there's still so much to like, of course, right? Like, even the Cockney fucking trolls, like, being in, that's great to see. But there's just so much surrounding all of these good scenes that make it hard to watch and enjoy fully. So, yeah. Anyway, happy post Labor Day, happy September to everybody.
Yep.
And we'll be maybe talking about Peacemaker at some point if you have time to watch it. If not, I might just wait and talk about it. I don't know. Who knows? We'll figure it out though. But yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, thanks everybody.
Anyway, that's Nerd Ledger.
That's the Nerd Ledger. Comment, rate, review, subscribe. Share your thoughts on The Hobbit. Tell us where we're right, where we're wrong, and we will tell you we don't care. Anyway,
Exactly.
Bye. See you next time.
Bye.